So welcome everybody to the second hour of MindShifters Radio. And today is Friday, April the 1st, 2022. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. And we'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And it's a whole lot easier than doing a monologue. So if you have a question or a comment, press 1. Being April Fool's, it was funny. This morning I went to visit Dad, and as I was, you have to sign in and check off, that you've not been around somebody with COVID and so forth and take your temperature. And so anyway, I was doing all the sign in, and there was a couple of little ladies sitting in the lounge behind me, and they saw me look at my watch because I was going to document the time that I had arrived. And she said, "What time is it?" And I said, it's 11 o'clock, and it's April the 1st. I said, "So be careful, somebody will play an April Fool's joke on you." And she just laughed, and she said, "Well, I'm not playing." So it was kind of comical. But we spent a few, not too long, but a little while with Dad, and played dominoes and set up some things in his room. And then he was eating lunch when we left to head back here to be on the show with you. So we welcome you to the show. And welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome everybody. Delighted and honored that you're here once again as we keep moving forward and deepening our understanding of this whole power person dynamic and the forgiveness process that alleviates this atrocity from the world. And I just wanted to expand, we've sort of sown over the last few days this power person thing into what happened in the Oscars. And an event happened actually when we were seeing Jeannie's dad that just ties in and sort of drove home a couple of points for me. And that is that if you remember, when your power person played out whatever their dynamic was, whatever their shtick was, how painful it was, how perhaps degrading it was, whatever all the things that went along with it for you. And you look at the impact that this power person dynamic has on people's lives, and it's monumental. We talked about this whole event at the Oscars the other night and how Will Smith told a story in a memoir that was published before the event ever happened. So it wasn't made up as a result of what happened, but it was it existed as far as the event goes. And Will talks about how his power person, Dad, literally hit his mother in the head, knocking her over and bleeding, and how that impacted his life, how he watched that happen, and how his whole life long he felt himself a coward because he never stood up to his father. Here we are 50 or 43 or so years later, and what does Will Smith do? Exactly what his power person did that he hated the most. I mean, literally, the thing he hated most in his life is precisely to a T the behavior that he did 43 years later when under stress. And look at the impact that event has had literally on the whole world. I mean, we've got people out there crying about how it made them angry and it made them, depressed. And there are all kinds of embarrassed for Smith, all kinds of things that people who watch an event like that live in denial think the event actually caused the response that they had. That denial, dissociation, and, remember our definition of denial is when I think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me. I'm in denial. And I dissociate from everything involved in that event when I language as though it's caused from outside me. So the person who watched Will Smith and said, boy, he enraged me, they've got a power person dynamic. It involved the rage of the power person, but they're totally, completely dissociated from it. Literally no access to it. And it takes a big person to start to engage in conversation going, wow, I look at how I've done things like that over and over and over again, and I'm going to choose to be responsible, and I'm going to work through it. But most people don't do that. Most people do exactly what Will Smith did. What did he say? He blamed love. I mean, think about it for a minute. He got up and said, people will do funny things for love. And my offering is love had nothing to do with it. His relationship with his wife and quote-unquote love involved in their relationship, absolutely zero, zilch, nothing whatsoever to do with what he did. But people make, and there's a four-letter word that I would kind of normally use here, but I won't because we're on the radio show. People make stuff. We'll use a different four-letter word, but you know the four-letter word I mean. People make stuff up in order to justify what they're dissociated from when they do it. And they have no idea. I mean, think about when your power person did whatever it is that you do regularly. You make yourself up a story that you didn't really do that, you did something else, and then you make up stories to justify what it is that you did. And how much ongoing energetic damage is done in the world. Energetic insanity carries on, and people go around with their spouses, with their children, with the people that are dearest to them, making up stories about why they did it, because they're totally and completely dissociated from the content of their own minds. It's interesting. Liam Neeson addresses that in a quote that I think is very powerful, and here's what Liam Neeson, the actor, says. This is a guy that's been through some pretty heavy-duty stuff. And excuse me, but I'm just flipping through an article here. I've got this quote in my article, and I'm going through it as we speak. Well, the article's longer than I realized. I just pasted it in. Oh, come on, Michael. Okay, here's what Liam Neeson says. Everyone says love hurts, but that is not true. Everyone gets these things confused with love. But in reality, love is the only thing in this world that covers all pain and makes someone feel wonderful again. Love is the only thing in this world that does not hurt. And I'd offer it does not cause aberrant, insane behavior like we saw in the Oscars the other night. No causal relationship whatsoever. The causal relationship was an underlying pained circumstance or situation dissociated from that drove him to do a behavior, and his hallucination, the stuff he made up, different word we could use when people make stuff up. Yeah, it's a 5-letter word, so what? But here he makes up this story, his excuse, instead of touch into a deeply, and this is a challenge of the power person dynamic. To touch into it means you've got to feel the pain of it. You've got to, face it directly. So instead, he makes up a story, did it for love. Now, I guarantee you that look that his wife gave him was not based in love. And I guarantee you that his getting up and hitting Chris Rock in the face and screaming obscenities had nothing whatsoever to do with love. It had to do with pain. Hurting people hurt people when they're in pain, whether that pain is conscious or unconscious. They do things that are quite literally insane. And so my offering is to just invite everyone to be aware, if you've ever done any of those insane things, to take responsibility and to move through it and stop, be willing to be confronted. Stop making up stories. This isn't a whole hallucination. I did it for love. No, love doesn't make you do angry, traumatic, hateful, vile, vicious things. Those two things are mutually exclusive. Everybody had to make something up. And if you confront the person that's making stuff up to justify their behavior, be very, very careful, because you are treading so close to John the Baptist and so close to losing your head. Now, I mentioned that we had an experience of this that kind of just, in the moment drove this whole picture home for me. And that is that where Dad's staying, they don't allow extension cords to be plugged into the wall for safety reasons. It's like a state law kind of thing. And they also don't allow any kind of railings, guardrails on a bed, not allowed. That's considered restraint, and it doesn't matter. You're just not allowed to do that. So we, at home, we had railings on the beds, up toward the head. So when Dad sat up, he could get a hold of it. He could help himself up, help himself sit down and such. But they made us take those off. And Jeanie had bought, and the bed was sitting in the middle of the room, so he was prone to, the possibility of falling off either side. So we chose to move the bed against the wall, so that at least one side he was protected. And then the other day, in order to give him a place to put, a water bottle and have some pictures and a clock and those sorts of things, she got a little narrow, like 4-inch wide little bookshelf type thing, and installed on it was a plug so that you could plug something in or you could charge a phone or what have you. And she had taken and put that together the other day and had it beside his bed. And when we got there this morning, it was taken away. It was moved away from his bed. It's like, what's this all about? Why is this? And I'm not sure exactly who the person was that the employee called, but one of her superiors, I don't know whether she's the director of the place or not, but came down and asked the question, and I suspect that us asking this question of her elicited a power person dynamic in her from the way she responded, from her energy and the way she responded. So we, said, why did they take the shelving unit out? She said, well, I don't know. And then she offered a piece of stuff, that other word, that she made up in order to justify why it was done. So, we'd like to have the bed over on one side toward the wall, on the wall, so that for safety reasons, because we can't have restraints. It's like, well, that's an interesting story, but we actually put it over against the wall. You had it out from the wall. And then I realized after, when I looked at it closely, that in fact this small device, Jeanie, if you could hit a mute button, we're starting to get noises in the background. So looked at it more closely and realized that the reason they moved it, I think, was because the plug that's in it was actually just an extent. It's mounted on the shelving unit, the little shelving unit, but it was actually basically an extension cord, and they don't allow extension cords. But it was just interesting, and it sort of brought this whole thing home of how people's stories, when they do exactly what was done to them that they hated happening, but they'll always have a story to justify it and make it real, make it reasonable, make it sensible, and verify that the behavior coming from their power person dynamic that when it was done to them, they abhorred it, absolutely abhorred it, but they make up a story to make it acceptable. And, underlying each time one does, I would love to get on the phone with Will Smith and say, Will, let's get together and do some work. And, man, this is such an opportunity to take this major life event that you wrote about in your memoir and how deeply it's impacted you and process through it. At the same time, another piece that I hadn't thought of, I've been doing a little bit of writing about this, was I really want to acknowledge the hero in this scenario, and that is a real man named Chris Rock. I don't particularly agree with his profession. It's what they call comedy can be pretty vicious, and he's can have a pretty cutting mouth. I'm not addressing that aspect of him, but I can only imagine that Chris Rock has done a significant amount of work to stand up in front of literally the world and what most people would call being slapped in the mouth and screamed obscenities like we're screamed at. Most people call that very degrading. Chris Rock, to me, is a hero. He stood there, he breathed, he stayed in the state of responsibility. He didn't go into, what the boy man usually does, like certain government representatives we've seen do over the last couple of years. Oh, look at what they're doing. Look what you've done to me. I'm such a victim. You've done such terrible. He didn't do any of that. He was totally, completely responsible. And he went right on with the show. And if you've read any accounts of what he said since then, basically there have been two statements that he's made. One, at least that I know of. One of them, he did a show a couple nights later somewhere, and apparently his audience was up by 50%. It's been a big boost for him. But when asked about it or commenting on it, what he said is, I'm still processing it. And if you remember, now he may not have exactly the same definition of processing as we do, but remember, our definition of processing is the ability to hold love conscious, active, and present when something less than love come up. Not one negative word came out of his mouth. Yeah, he did say, Will Smith just slapped the poop out of me. Yeah, but he didn't say it in any kind of a vicious, degrading, victimized, blaming, none of that. And the only other account that I've read is one of the producers, I believe it was one of the producers, or it may have been one of the other recipients of an award. Because of what Will Smith did and the way it changed the focus of the whole evening, he apologized to that person that they lost the limelight that they should have had because of his joke. I mean, talk about someone who's living in the present and doing their work and standing in a place of an actual adult human being. He's processing, dealing with what came up for him responsibly rather than puking it out all on, which, lesser men would have been puking all over Will Smith and the Academy Awards for allowing it and, all that. He's done none of it. He's apologized to the way he was able to stay conscious enough in the present of his pain. And my understanding is that, Will Smith, remember he played Muhammad Ali in Muhammad Ali movie. And, one writer compared his hands to a large flank steak. Will Smith's got a pretty big, pretty tough hand. And he pretty much, let all of the energy that he had go into Chris Rock, and Chris just took it on, stayed connected, carried on with what he was there to do, apologized to the people whose limelight was stolen as a result of the event, and acknowledges that he's processing it. To me, this has just been just such a beautiful example, especially with the fact that Will Smith had written about the event that he replicated. It's such a powerful verification of the power person dynamic, but he's given all the world an opportunity to look and see. So pretty powerful, pretty profound. And so just, building brain cells to understand on deeper and deeper levels that dynamic, and to, the more brain cells you've got, the more able you're going to be able to stop making crap up to justify the crap that you do. And you're going to be able to go, oh, look what I'm doing. Boy, when they did this to me, I detested, hated, it was hatred. Now, I've done it 1,000 times to the people around me, especially the ones that I cherish. But I did it for love. The lie we tell ourselves to rename our power person behavior. And when we're not able to acknowledge and own it, then it goes on and on and on. And owning it means I'm going to have to look at the original pain of it and process it directly, which to me it looks and sounds like Chris Rock is in the middle of doing with, that's a pretty heavy hand, and literally, to me, it takes a real man to stand in front of 80 million people live in the whole world and do what he's done with it. So accolades to you, Chris Rock. Even though I don't agree with your profession of how so-called comedy can be so vicious. In any event, they're my thoughts for today, and I would love to have your thoughts back. If it refines anything for you, makes sense for you, doesn't make sense for you, how does this all work? Would love to hear your voice and have a conversation with you. If you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you dial that number, you'll be listening to the show. And if you have a question or comment, a thought, if we can support you with anything that's moving in your life, push 1. Jeanie will see through the magic of technology your hand rise up on her computer screen and introduce you by your area code, and we'll be having a conversation. So how can we support you? You see, we have anybody out there in the phone queue with a hand up? Anything happening in the chat room?
Nope, it is quiet both places.
Oh, okay. Well, what's happening in your world, folks? Monologue's over. Time for dialogue. How can we support you? How are these tools fitting? Is there something that doesn't make sense? Some piece that's missing? Something needs to be filled in? And of course, to add to the first part of my monologue, I'd put forward, of course, the solution. And there's only one, conscious, consistent, reliable, persistent, consistent solution, and that's forgiveness. Other people, and we see people who have major events in their lives and they heal from them. And my offering is that they kind of, if you say to them, well, how did you heal that? They'll go, I don't know. It was just kind of like they stumbled across forgiveness. Somehow they stumbled across a way to remove the traumatic energy from their structures and be freed from it, which is nice. That's a good thing for that to happen, for somebody to stumble across it and have a major shift take place. But what we're looking to do with this forgiveness tool is to offer people a consistent, persistent way that you don't have to just stumble across a healing possibility, but that you consciously create those healing opportunities for yourself continuously. One of the testimonials that Dr. Tim did at one point some time ago was, and he's actually said it more than once on the show, was that, he's followed as a clinical psychotherapist that he's heard of and followed many good clinical psychotherapists and gone to their workshops because these people have produced awesome, phenomenal, powerful healing results with people, and he wants to learn how to do it. And what he shared is that, and he's got many friends in the field that also go to those people's workshops, but in most cases, others can't reproduce it. Did the therapist know what they're doing in order to produce that result? Is it something they do unconsciously so they can't explain it? Well, I can remember when this was all unconscious for me, and years of study and understanding and work building brain cells and doing the forgiveness work allowed me to build the brain cells to be able to explain. And what Dr. Tim has said, what attracted him to this work and has him on the radio show so many years later, doing his own hour of the show, is that he can hand these tools to anybody and they can produce the same result as anybody else, the same result as me or him or anyone else. It's not something you have to be special to do. There's a set of tools here. You don't have to believe them. You don't have to accept them. All you have to do is use them. And if you put them to work, watch how life changes. It is just the most amazing thing. And so if we can support you in understanding that and putting that together, if there are any, holes in your understanding or you're going, what are you talking about? Where is this going? Push one. Let's have a conversation.
We have a hand up.
Awesome. Let's say hello.
Area code 541, Miss Belinda.
Yes, it is. Just 1 second. I'm in the middle of my
welcome, young lady.
I had to turn everything off. Okay, now we're good. We were good. Anyway, I wanted to share with you that what you just mentioned about the whole drama at the Oscars just so dovetailed perfectly with what Dr. Tim was sharing of his summary of Chapter 7 of The Way of Mastery. And I am just absolutely ecstatic about the way brain cells must be popping in me, because I'm making connections that I hadn't made with information that I'd received 30, 40, 50 years ago, but just simply did not comprehend what they actually meant. And so thank you, and Jeanie and Dr. Tim and The Way of Mastery and your quotes on the Course in Miracles, even though it's languaged in a way that just doesn't work for me. I am so appreciative of all the quotes and all of the experiences that you and Jeanie share. Thank you, thank you.
Well, I might invite you to let go of that thought about how it doesn't work for you, because you built brain cells from using it, and therefore it is working for you quite well. It may bring some things up. One of my experiences with the Course, I remember one woman that I worked with years ago, and she lived in San Francisco, and she was working with the Course in Miracles. And one day, she was so enraged. She read a passage from the Course. She was on her way to work. She was so enraged. She was driving across the San Francisco Bridge, and she threw her Course in Miracles out her car window off the bridge.
Oh.
So maybe the Course brings some, my take is the Course is written so very powerfully that it resonates and starts to show us parts of our minds that are in need of healing. And so a lot of people sort of want to push it away, but it's there to build brain cells. And when I recognize the genius of this man, Yeshua, 2,000 years ago, to have in essence said, his work is only for those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. You got to have the brain cells. And, that can take decades of life experience, or, the minute we hear someone else speak it, we can go, oh, there it is. And it usually takes time to build the brain cells for our brain to be able to generate a perceptual construct that approximates the higher possibility. So, delighted that's happening for you.
Yes, thank you. I'm delighted too, and we'll have to do a little jig, all of us together in our
go for it.
Our unformed consciousness together.
Well, and one of the other things that comes to mind, and I mentioned this briefly the other day, is I'd shared that there is an ophthalmologist that I worked with years ago. He's passed now. But he had developed a way of using light laser beams, putting them into certain parts of the eye in order to stimulate parts of the brain. Pretty awesome work. Wow. Through his process, and it really was a major brain upgrade for me. This is 25 years ago, maybe more than that. But anyway, what he used to say as an ophthalmologist was that, and I've never gone looking for verification of this, but that there were more connections possible in a human brain than there are atoms in the known universe. Now, they use a comparison of the number of grains of sand on the beaches of the world. I mean, you think about how many, and yet one grain of sand probably has, 10 trillion atoms in it. And what he says is one brain has more connections possible than all the atoms in the universe. So as we continue to build this brain cells, and this is one of the reasons why I think we're designed to be eternal. Like, nature doesn't design things and not use them. So if you and I, if every one of us has the capacity to make more links and connections and generate higher and higher and higher orders of understanding and realities within our minds to have us and assist us in comprehending the creation, obviously we were meant to be around for a long time to do that. And 100-year lifespan's nothing. I think we're here to be eternal, to continue to build those brain cells to the point where who knows what it is that we're here to comprehend? Who knows what it is that we're here to understand and be able to do and bring forward when you realize that's the capacity we have. Like, the highest of the highest human beings might be working at 1/100,000th of capacity. And what happens if we build those brain cells and we reach that? So to me, that's one of the reasons why I believe that we're designed to be literally physiologically eternal.
What you just said reminds me a bit of this fairly new concept, I guess, 50 years, of lateral thinking. And I've been exploring that. And I need to tell you really quickly that I only have 7% on my phone. So if we lose contact with each other, it's just I'm not where my charger is. So,
okay.
But what a beautiful picture you've presented of the cosmos's version of lateral thinking. I just, I'm going to play with that one also. And I agree with you. I'm aware that my resistance to A Course in Miracles has to do with a bunch of things I'm still processing, including any test anxiety, anything that even looks like a form or a test, or be very stressful for it. Even if I ace it, it's extremely stressful for me. So I know I have more issues.
So here, hold for a second. If you've only got a minute, hold. Important key here. So, did you notice your denial language just now?
That I was blaming it on
is stressful for me.
Oh, it is stressful for me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's total, complete denial. Stress is never created from outside. Stress is always created from within. And my offering would be, it brings up some stress for you, and there's your next worksheet. There's your next piece of work to move through that. And recognize that what the Course is designed to do is to bring up everything that people have never processed. And sadly, most people, who are designed to be going to these higher cortical functions live in a sympathetic dominant state of fear, fight, flight, or freeze, and that cuts off access to the higher cortical functions. And then they function under the power person dynamic, and they think that they're all just, rocking and everything's just doing great. And all they're doing is replaying. Like, Yeshua at one point says, I'm here to be about my... He's 12. His parents are saying, come on home. And he says, don't you know I'm here to be about my Father's business? And I think we could take that phrase and apply it to every behavior that's done that replicates the power person. Don't you know you're here to be about your Father's business? You're not here to replicate that garbage, that past. Does that fit and make sense for you?
Yes, it does. And I have a very deep perception that my resistance, when it is gone, will possibly still leave me with the awareness that the Course in Miracles does not suit my growth, and acknowledging that there are quotes in it that are wonderful, but it is also what you were saying, or that all of us deal with, is in this formed universe we have an infinite amount of time, and we are required to have priorities, have goal management, have all of those things. So what I am very happy to work on and am working on is all of my resistance. And I also know that there is an awareness within me that says this other will serve your walk better than another way. That's why I'm not a Buddhist, even though I appreciate and value very highly Buddhism and what accomplishments it has done and how it has expressed many, many aspects of Christ mind. The Aramaic gospel works better for me. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I have a great
until it doesn't.
Pardon? Until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't. And then your brain cells are ready for wisdom that comes from another place.
Exactly, which has been the journey of my whole life. I feel very led, spiritually speaking, my whole life, through many different paths or ways of seeing divinity and seeing ourselves. And I feel that's why I nested in the Aramaic gospel for this moment in time, because this moment in time is really all I have. And if something very strongly urges me, okay, it is time, you're at a Y in the road, it is time to make another choice that will further your journey home, then I will do that. And in the practice of that, I will discern whether it is valid or not for what I have been instructed to do or to be. Not to be. Be is constant. To do. Yeah. Or to study. Or
cool.
The many things come under my nose, Michael and Jeanie. It's just that I am required to be discerning. What is the most useful for you personally, and for the good of the whole, for you to study in this moment of time. And so I'm calling right and left. I'm really paying attention to my lack of focus and saying it is now time to coalesce all of this that you have explored, all of this nectar that you have gathered, and bring it home and digest it and find which is the most healing and the most helpful for you and for your community. And so, and I also I'm aware it's one step at a time, and it's practice.
For sure. The piece that I'm offering you simply is that while I hear you saying that about the Course, at the same time I hear you having benefited from it. It's helped you build some brain cells. And so
exactly.
I'm just offering that you might want to look at the conflict there, and that the Course is, I've had the experience, and many people have, that they read a sentence in the Course and they go, what did I just read? Let me read that again. I'm sure I just read it. And they read it again, and they go, I can't remember what did I just read? And they read it again, and they read it again. And then 6 months later, they pick it up and they read it. And it's just like as simple as ABC. It's just straightforward. And the course is written in a way that if there are conflicts within the mind, it's going to arouse those conflicts for resolution. And it moves people in the direction of that resolution. That has been my experience. And then it's just simple, straightforward. Well, that's obvious what it said. How did I ever have problems with that? Well, the thing was I didn't have the brain cells to comprehend it, and or I had conflicts in my content that this resonated for me that I didn't want to feel, didn't want to deal with. And so just offering that you might want to look at that acknowledgement, kind of love-hate relationship and see what it means. I can remember back years ago I had a... Go ahead.
Sort of like the computer, yes.
There you go. Back several years ago, I had someone give me a book, pardon me, that was written, and I don't even remember the name of the book right now, but I picked it up, and this person was give me this glowing review of it, and I opened it, and I tried to read it and through, and it was just like, no way, and I put it aside. And it was probably about 3 years later that I ran across that book again, and I picked it up, and I had to devour it. Every word was like a piece of gold. 3 years earlier, it's like, I won't even waste my time to read this. And I literally read the book in one setting. About 3 years later. And so I think, like the child, as Montessori recognizes, there are sensitive periods. And when we're in a sensitive period, there's a whole piece of information that will be consumed and integrated and be useful. And if we're not in a sensitive period for it, we tend to push it off and reject it.
Or sometimes it may be, and sometimes it may be, because I'm learning more and more that we live in paradox when we walk in Christ, and so the Christ mind. And so, and it also may be that I don't need to go there. It's not necessary, because then when I hear something from the Course, it makes total sense, and I am at peace. So, there's either possibility there, and I'm willing to explore both of them. Or any other possibility that comes in between those two.
I hear you. Sweet. Well, I'm glad you're on the path with us, and that what we're doing is serving you and supporting you, and thank you for the support you offer. The gifts, I got the materials that you sent, and the gifts that you sent for Aria were sweet. We appreciate how you think of her and ourselves as well.
And also, I want to thank you for offering me the opportunity to stand in and feel comfortable and bathe in your and Jeanie's love, even when I see things totally differently than you. That is an awesome gift.
Delighted to be on the team and have you on ours.
Okay, and hugs all the way around.
All right. Well, any other thoughts for you today, young lady, before we move forward?
No, I think that's wonderful. You're perfect. I'm perfect. We're all perfect. Jeanie, you're perfect. And Aria Rain is the perfect princess.
Yesterday we were playing with water and a little bit of soap and an ozone machine that we have for detoxifying vegetables. And I put the ozone device in the water with the soap in it, and it just builds this mountain of bubbles. If you take a look on my Facebook page, I just happened to catch her at the right time. She took a big handful of these bubbles, and she's holding them up above her head like she's giving an offering to heaven. And there's just this awesome, sweet, angelic look on her face that I caught. It's just, it's like one of those pictures that, man, I love getting that one. And I'd love to look at it. So they are definitely...
Go ahead.
I'm complete.
Oh, okay. I would love to see that picture, and I just have chosen to be off of Facebook, so I can just about visualize it in my mind. She's such a precious she's such a precious piece of plasticity that you and Jeanie are having the cherished opportunity to enjoy being part of. Blessings. And I am complete.
Michael, I can't hear you.
Oops, I pushed my mute button. Thank you. Thank you, Celinda.
Okay.
No, I had pushed my mute button without realizing when I went to send that picture to you. So you should have it in your phone by now. But I love this magic of technology that we have available to us.
Yes, and I love the virtual reality of being outside in nature, too. So
yes.
They're both blessings in their proper application.
Oh, I love sitting outside with my phone, for sure. All right, well, you have a blessed one. Take care.
Stays on the shelf when I go to the garden. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you again.
Take care. Sure.
Bye-bye.
All righty, bye-bye.
And we have another hand.
Awesome. Let's say hello.
808. It's Miss Roma.
Oh, hi. How's everybody today?
Aloha, young lady. Welcome. We're rocking.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I received a letter from Spain, Portugal.
Interesting. Who do we
Mega
know in Portugal?
Yeah. I don't. Well, this is like they're telling me that I've won $4,500,000.
Oh, wow. Go get it, girl.
Oh, yeah, but I mean,
if you can do it for less than a dime.
Yeah, well, there was going to be a fee of $1,200. I found out this guy. I emailed back because I thought that was the safest way to deal with this. You know, at the bottom of this piece of paper, this is called Mega Millions with Mega Pallier or something like that from Spain. And I don't know. Have you ever heard of this?
Well, there's so many scams out there that will tell you how, you know, Mrs. Such and Such's wealthy husband had all this money hidden away and he died and she wants to give it to you. And, I mean, there's so many of those out there that I'd be careful how I interact with them.
I tried to check it out on the Internet to see if it was a fraud because I've discovered that some things are frauds on the Internet, but this looked like it was ill. So.
Well, as long as you don't give away any private information or pay for it, you know, if somebody's going to give you millions and says, but you have to send me $500 to get it, you're being scammed.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. It was supposed to be $1,200 to Arizona. Oh, my gosh. There's a lot of scam artists. It seems like there's a huge explosion of scam artists walking.
Oh, yes. There's lots of it. But if somebody's going to give me $10 million and says all I have to do is send them $1,200, just write back a note and say, take the $1,200 out of the $10 million and send me the balance, and you'll never hear from them again.
So, did you get a package the package that I sent for
Have not seen it yet, no.
Haven't really. I sent Snow White for your granddaughter.
Oh, awesome. Well, we'll look forward to that, but I've noticed that you know, since Mr. DeJoy has been put in charge of the post office over the last 3 or 4 years, everything has slowed down immeasurably. I mean, it's taking weeks for us to get stuff that it used to take 2 or 3 days to get. So there was a very concerted effort to literally destroy the post office by a man who was appointed to head up the post office, but he actually was invested in a private packaging or you know, delivery service company that was making millions off the post office. And so, but it'll get here, I hope, and we'll let you know when it does. Thank you.
I think I sent it over a month ago, so it's really
No.
Anyway, I was watching that and I thought, oh my God, I bet you. What's her name? I forgot her name.
Ari Rain?
Aria, yeah. I thought, oh, I bet Aria might love this. You know,
Cool.
With the 7 people.
Well, we'll keep an eye for it. She does love to
okay.
to
I
get
hope
books
it gets there. Okay. All right. Aloha. Thank you.
Okay, aloha. Take care. Blessings. Bye-bye. So it looks like we're down to about 10 minutes. So if you're out there in the world and you have a thought for us, push 1. Let's have a conversation. Is this whole power person dynamic explanation making sense for you? Is there anything else? Oh, great. Let's say hello.
760, I believe this is Ann.
Yes, ma'am. Hi,
welcome,
folks.
young lady. How are things in Florida?
Well, the weather is great. I got through the emotions last night when I found out how much tax I'm going to have to pay to the IRS because of property that we sold, the kids and I. And so I just canceled the goal to even deal with it. I mean, just, And so I got some sleep. And then, things came up today. And I go, okay, either I need to do a MindShifter, but then I kind of already went through that when I said it's safe and healing to accept the rules of the IRS. Well, I already kind of, emotionally went through, writing it, even though I didn't put it down on paper. But then I'm thinking, well, what if I do a wake-up sheet? What would the goal be? And so would the goal be for them to be kinder to us? Anyway, because of my invested monies, then with this money that we made, it put me into a different percent category. So that meant, so I paid more on my stuff, but then also we had to pay. So when she said the word $32,000, I just wait. So I caught the last 15 minutes of Dr. Tim, reading through it. He's reading through lesson 7, and I missed yesterday. But anyway, the last 15 minutes seemed to just calm me down because it was just reminding me that it's not really there. And so I don't know if you've had your experiences with, having to deal with owing them stuff when you were trying to get ahead.
So how about another MindShifter?
Okay.
How about the more I get to pay to the IRS?
Uh-oh. Okay.
The more abundant I am, the more abundant I am,
the more abundant I am?
Yes. The more I get to pay to the IRS, comma, the more abundant I am, comma, the more I cherish communications I receive from the IRS. There you go. That's what you put on the other side of the page. There's where the worksheet is. There's where the goals are, right there.
Okay, the more I
the communications, the more I cherish the communications I receive from the IRS.
Okay.
And so in that response that you had where you started to laugh and kind of fumble over your words, there's where the goals are that are important to do your worksheets on.
Okay, right. Just like when we get angry, you're giving us those or something. Well, and actually, the communication came from my tax lady, so it's not in print yet. But it doesn't matter. It's still the rules because she read me the rule. I mean, because she was checking on some other stuff too, so I can't. Okay, I'll throw the rules in there too, because it all had to do with rules. Like you can't even like reinvest, because they're saying that it was for investment reasons, but actually for us at the time it was for personal reasons. You know, the kids were going to build on it, they're going to live up there. But then they decided to come to Florida, and then now they're back in South Carolina. Anyway, and that was a God thing anyway. But it's like, okay, so it's not worth, I guess that's what I said on last night, it's not worth me arguing with the IRS. Well, no, it was really for personal reasons and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, so I'll do this MindShifter. Yeah,
cool.
So that would go on the right side of the, yeah, that would go on the right side of the page, like what I just said.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep, all of it.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Cool.
I appreciate it.
All right. Any other thoughts for you?
Blessings. Nope, not
all
today.
Right, take care.
Thank you. Blessings.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, Miss Jeanie, do we have anything else happening in the chat room? Anybody with a hand up?
No, and I just happened to think to share a story, an experience I had with the IRS. This was several years ago when Ryan was in college, and when I was in college, and so I had submitted, you know, everything for our taxes and paid and all that, and I had gotten a letter that I owed them another $2,000 and some, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And I didn't even take time to do a worksheet, but I just sat there breathing, and I called the IRS. And
I remember I was sitting there breathing with you.
And I was just breathing, and they answered the phone, and I said, you know, I don't understand. I said, I used the H&R Block program, and it walked me through, you know, all of the school stuff and everything. And, you know, I thought I submitted everything that I was supposed to, so please explain to me what I've missed. And she said, hold on just a moment. And so she put me on hold, and I'm sitting there just breathing away. My heart's pounding out of my chest. And she comes back, and this is a quote from a lady that works at the IRS. And she goes, we are so stupid. She said, ignore that letter. She said, I'll send you out another one. You don't owe us anything. You're fine. And I was like, huh? And I hung up the phone, and I was like, okay, breathing is better than believing, because I didn't believe I was going to come out of that one. And I just sat there and kept breathing, and I actually made a poster that I used during the women's intensives that says breathing is better than believing. So anyway, just thought to share that since it was an IRS story there.
Yeah, I remember that very clearly. That was very powerful to sit and breathe with you through that. That was something. And for those who are listening who might wonder what we're talking about with a MindShifter, if you're new to the show, a MindShifter is one of the tools that we teach for accessing unconscious data, accessing things that are hiding within our own mind. So our definition of a MindShifter is that a MindShifter is a thought about an issue in your life around which there are thought disorders, and is the opportunity to surface, process, and release the thought disorders. So the design of the MindShifter and the way that you do it, you know, if that one appealed to you and you're not sure what to do with it, is you divide the page in two. You write the MindShifter on the left side of the page, and then you just do a brain dump. You let your mind come up with anything that it's got in regard to it that's resonated. Remember, the mind works by the law of resonance. If I say, don't think about the color of your car, what moves in your mind is something about the color of your car. You know, I've had people who, when I use that example, and I say, don't think about the car, and they say, well, I'm not thinking about it. And it's like, really? What is it you're not thinking about? In order not to think about it, you had to think about it, quote unquote. So the idea of the MindShifter is to simply write that and write it 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 until there's nothing else to come up, and let everything come up and just uncensored write it on the right-hand side of the page. Then when you're complete, go back, look at everything on the right-hand side of the page, and work through. You know, gee, I might need to do a worksheet around this. I might need to take the responsibility communication tool here. Oh, here's a place for me to use the commitment. So what tools am I going to use to work through all the things that come up in response to the MindShifter? So that's how that works, and we're just about out of time, so I'm going to say thank you all for joining us. Create the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world, and blessings. Bye-bye.